Yes, Len, we can now start, sir. Thank you. You are on the sir mute, sorry.
Let's try that again. Take two. Good afternoon. I'm Len Baker. I'm President and CEO of March of Dimes Canada. Thank you so much for joining us for our inaugural Queen's Park Day, celebrating the impact of our home and vehicle modification program, or as we call it at March of Dimes Canada, the HVMP program. I would like to begin by acknowledging that March of Dimes Canada's national office is located in Toronto on the treaty lands and territories of the Mississaugas of the Credit and the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. I'm grateful for the opportunity to work here, and I thank the generations of people who have taken care of this land since the beginning. At this point, I'd like to ask Amanda McKenzie to jump on the screen with me and just do a little bit of housekeeping for today's session. Amanda?
Thanks so much, Len. Before we get started, today I want to draw your attention to the accessibility features available in our WebEx here today. Live closed captioning is available. For English language captions, please see the multimedia viewer in the bottom right of your screen. For captions in French or another language, click the CC button on the bottom left of your screen and select the language you need. ASL interpretation is also available. Thank you so much to our excellent interpreters, Courtney and Karen, for their services today. And to help Courtney and Karen out, I'd like to ask all of our speakers to speak slowly and clearly for both captioning and our ASL interpreters. We will reserve some time at the end of today's event for questions. So please submit any questions you have via the chat function on the right-hand side of the screen. I'll be monitoring that throughout this event. And if you need more help, these instructions were also sent by email to everyone who registered in advance. You can request help in the chat too. So if you need something, put it in there and we'll see what we can do. And now I'd like to introduce to you Jay Hira, the chair of our National Board of Directors here at March of Dimes Canada. Jay.
Thank you, Amanda, and good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone's keeping warm on this rather chilly January day. My name is Jay Hira, and I'm the chair of the Board of Directors at March of Dimes Canada. Today, I'm privileged to be here with all of you to celebrate the Home and Vehicle Modification Program, or the HVMP as we call it. HVMP provides Ontario government-funded grants to people with disabilities of all ages to modify their homes and/or vehicles in order to foster independence and community connection. Ontarians with disabilities can apply for up to $15,000 for home modifications over their lifetime, or up to $15,000 to modify a vehicle every 10 years. We are grateful to the various Ontario governments for the past 20 years of successful collaboration in administering and managing this program. Each year in Ontario, there are thousands of individuals and families that apply to the HVMP program, and we provide as many grants as we can, but it's only a fraction of those that apply who receive the grant. In fact, last year, we could only fund about 36% of the eligible applications. This means more than 2/3 of the grant applications go unfunded. The funding levels for HVMP are set at the 2001 level. Our world has certainly changed in the past 20 years. What could be funded 20 years ago no longer applies. The cost of materials alone have reduced the purchasing power of every grant dollar. The HVMP itself is in urgent need of modifications and modernization to meet the demand and needs of Ontarians with disabilities. March of Dimes Canada wants to ensure that every eligible applicant can benefit from the program. That's why we're asking the provincial government and all MPPs to support investing in HVMP at the next possible opportunity, and that is the upcoming 2022 Ontario budget. This morning, myself, Len, and other members of March of Dimes Canada's leadership were pleased to meet with the Honourable Mary Lee Fullerton, Minister of Children, Community and Social Services, the Honourable Raymond Cho, Minister of Seniors and Accessibility, and the Honourable Christine Elliott, Deputy Premier and Minister of Health. We heard from all three ministers that March of Dimes Canada is a valued partner and our work across Ontario is both noticed and appreciated. We also heard that Ministers Cho, Fullerton, and Elliott all believe that the HVMP offers real solutions to some of the challenges that Ontario is facing as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, such as reducing or delaying the need for health human resources like PSWs and ensuring Ontarians with disabilities of all ages can remain in their homes, which is where they truly want to be. Lastly, all three ministers were surprised that HVMP had not had an increase in funding since it was first implemented over 20 years ago, and that there is real opportunity to invest in facilitating Ontarians with disabilities get the home and vehicle modifications they need to be independent and safe in their own communities. So thank you to the ministers for their time this morning with us, allowing us to present the very real need for increased investment in HVMP and for your invaluable feedback and support. We're looking forward to working with our partners in the provincial government and across all parties to move forward on investing in a program that makes a quick, lasting impact in the lives of Ontarians with disabilities. Leading up to today's events, we were pleased to have the support of MPPs from across all parties. To date, 14 MPPs have met with the HVMP grant recipients in their communities to learn about the impact of the program. More MPPs will be meeting with HVMP grantees in the coming weeks. These HVMP heroes have written to Minister Fullerton as the funding minister for the program, expressing their support for increased investment in HVMP. If you're an MPP who hasn't yet met with an HVMP grantee in your community, let us know in the chat, and our team will follow up with you in the weeks to come. We are grateful for their support and for that of everyone here with us today for this virtual celebration. So thank you again for your time, and at this point, I'll pass it back to Len to kick off today's program. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay, and thank you as a senior volunteer with March of Dimes Canada, our newly appointed board chair, for the time and effort that you put in as a volunteer for our organization. It means a lot to us. I'm so proud for us to all be gathered here today virtually for this discussion and information sharing session about our home and vehicle modification program and its impact on the lives of people with disabilities across Ontario. As Jay mentioned, we're going to hear from a number of honorable guests, including elected officials, as well as members of the March of Dimes Canada community who have benefited from the home and vehicle modification program. We're honored to have representatives from every party here with us today. So I would like to begin by introducing Minister Raymond Cho, who we had the opportunity to spend some time with this morning to brief him and his team in more detail about the home and vehicle modification program. So Minister Cho, if you're ready, I welcome you to join us.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the invitation to join you for the March of Dimes Advocacy Day. I'm honored to be among so many strong advocates advocates who are helping to create a more accessible province. How we think about accessibility has evolved since the AODA was passed with the support of all parties in legislature nearly 20 years ago. Our government has continued the work of identifying, preventing, and removing barriers across our province. As we move towards a more accessible province, one in which every Ontarian is able to fully participate in the Ontario dream, we continue to identify new obstacles. Our example of this has been our implementation of more digital options for those looking to access government information and services. Having digital access is fantastic for those who have mobility issues or otherwise have a challenge getting to physical location. But only having digital options creates new barriers for those who are unable to access these tools. This is why our government's approach is to offer digital tools as a first option, but not as the only option. We are seeking to deliver products and services to Ontarians in the manner of their choosing. It's one of the reasons we are continually working to include accessibility in the design of new digital tools and processes by including Ontarians of all abilities in our user testing. In this way, we can help make access to government services and supports more accessible for everyone. This process isn't perfect. It's work in progress. There are going to be bugs to work out. That is why we not only ask for, but welcome your feedback on how we can do a better job. Because creating more accessible Ontario is a job for all of us. It takes all levels of government working together with the businesses and community organizations like the March of Dimes. We need partners like you, and we appreciate you. I want to thank the March of Dimes for your continued good work across Ontario, and each of you for joining us here today. Working together, we can continue to create a more open and accessible province, one in which everyone can live the Ontario dream. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Cho. And again, thank you for your support of March of Dimes Canada and the important work we do. I certainly want to echo your words pertaining to the importance of government, the community, and the business community being able to work together. I think the Home and Vehicle Modification Program is a great example of that, where local contractors and renovators benefit from the ability to help people in their communities make their homes more accessible, and for people who make changes to vehicles to make them more accessible to be able to benefit from this opportunity as well. We very much appreciate you being with us this afternoon, and we have a number of other guests now that I'm going to quickly introduce. At this point, please join me as we review some remarks, starting with the Honorable Marilee Fullerton, Minister of Children, Community and Social Services, followed by the Honorable Peter Bethlenfalvy, the Minister of Finance, and finally the Honorable Christine Elliott, Deputy Premier and Minister of Health. Could we start those videos, please?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for inviting me to share greetings on this March of Dimes Canada Advocacy Day. We're so grateful for the work you do, day in and day out, to support our loved ones across Ontario. The Home and Vehicle Modification Program has proven to be a success to keep people with disabilities safe and independent at home. It has removed financial barriers for so many people who cannot afford to make their homes or vehicles accessible. The Home and Vehicle Modification Program also enables grant recipients to stay in their own homes safely. We have a shared vision of ensuring that everything we do is directly focused on the individuals we serve. When we put people at the center, we can deliver the care they need and deserve. Our government is focused on ensuring that people with developmental disabilities can fully participate in their communities. And that's why we recently introduced our vision for the future of developmental services in Ontario, Journey to Belonging. This is the most fundamental change to the sector in decades, and we will continue to work with agencies like the March of Dimes to ensure the people you serve continue to get the supports they need. On behalf of Premier Ford and our government, thank you again for all you do to deliver compassionate care. And thank you for your ongoing dedication to improving the quality of life for our loved ones.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Peter Bethlenfalvy, Ontario's Minister of Finance. March of Dimes Canada is an outstanding organization, and we are proud to be funding the Home and Vehicle Modification Program, the HVMP. As Minister of Finance, I consider it incredibly important that our government funds programs like this one to help people with disabilities lead a life that is safe, independent, and empowered. By supporting and uplifting people with disabilities, together we will build a more inclusive Ontario. For example, Jen Irwin was able to use the HVMP to get a chairlift installed in her family's van for her son William, who uses a wheelchair. My colleague, Minister Thompson, was lucky enough to meet William and Jen last year, and reading their stories, I found myself extremely proud of the good this program is doing. As a government, it is so important that we know the challenges people with disabilities face in Ontario, so we can remove barriers and see the full potential of our province. Have a wonderful event, everyone.
Hello, everyone. It's an honor to speak today about people living with different abilities. To begin, I want to express my deepest appreciation to March of Dimes Canada for your dedication and advocacy, which has supported millions of Canadians living with different abilities. Thank you for your incredible efforts to support people living with different abilities during the pandemic and helping them get vaccinated. We know that getting as many eligible Ontarians vaccinated as soon as possible, particularly our most vulnerable citizens, is critical to stop the spread of COVID-19 and keep our communities safe. To help people living with different abilities get vaccinated, we've provided them with safe and accessible transportation to and from their vaccination appointments through the Accessible Drive to Vaccines program. And we will continue to work with Team Ontario to get more shots into arms every day. Work is also ongoing to identify barriers that people living with different abilities experience and tailor supports to their needs. The Home and Vehicle Modification Program is an important initiative that helps people living with different abilities live safely in their homes while also supporting their employment and active participation in their communities. Ontario's Assistive Devices Program also helps hundreds of thousands of Ontarians with long-term physical challenges to stay healthy. Looking to the future, we will continue to address any gaps in the broader healthcare system that impact people living with different abilities. We look forward to receiving insights from my colleague, Minister Raymond Cho's Healthcare Standards Development Committee, on ways to prevent and remove barriers for people living with different abilities in the hospital sector. Our government is committed to building an inclusive, barrier-free society that will empower all people living with different abilities. And we will continue to partner with organizations such as March of Dimes Canada and listen to people with lived experience to ensure people of all abilities can lead independent, active, and meaningful lives. Thank you.
I'd like to thank Ministers Fullerton, Bethlen-Falvey, and Elliott for their remarks and taking time to make those videos for us. It was almost as easy to flip the videos as it was to perhaps get them to the podium. So, we're learning to live within these virtual environments, and I very much appreciate the fact that they took time to make a video and share that with all of us today. So I see Amanda's come back on the screen with us, which means it's time for us to move to our panel discussion. So, Amanda, I'll turn things over to you.
Thank you so much, Len. Those were great videos. I'm delighted to have had them, and thank you, Minister Cho, for your remarks. It's great to hear from you today. Today's all about our home and vehicle modification program and the impact it has on Ontarians with disabilities. We thought, what better way to celebrate that program than to hear firsthand the experiences of people who have received HVMP grants. That's why next, I'm thrilled to be joined by a panel of HVMP grant recipients from communities across Ontario. They'll share their own personal stories with HVMP and the changes this program enabled for their families. So at this time, I'd like to invite Don Turner, Jen Irwin, and Michelle Seguin to join me on the screen. Okay. All right. So thank you so much, Dawn, Jen, and Michelle, for joining us today. So we have Dawn in the southwestern part of the province in Blenheim, Jen further north in Lucknow, and Michelle out east in Nepean, truly across the province. So first off, let's start with some background. So briefly, can you each tell us why you or your family member applied for an HVMP grant? What challenges or barriers were you facing? Michelle.
Illness, and it greatly limits my ability to walk at times. And I was fortunate enough to have the use of a scooter to help me along with the progression of my illness. Unfortunately, I did not have a scooter lift for my vehicle, so that meant that I was very limited in where I could go, what I could do with that scooter. So I applied to March of Dimes to help me with my vehicle so that I would be able to use my scooter whenever needed versus borrowing my father's vehicle and using his scooter lift.
Excellent. Thank you so much. That is a totally reasonable thing to apply for then. Jen, we know a little bit about your story, but maybe you can share it with this group.
Hi. So I have an 18-year-old son now, William, who has cerebral palsy and requires a wheelchair and requires total care for all aspects of daily living. So we've actually received more than one grant because we have done vehicle and home. So our vehicle is the most recent. We have 4 children, so we needed a larger vehicle that would fit William and his siblings. So we've had that about a year, and we couldn't live without it because he cannot sit on his own. So we can't transfer him into any other vehicle. It's his only way of getting anywhere, and we live rurally. So every time he has a medical appointment, it's a 2-hour drive to London. And if we had no way of getting him there, I don't know what we would do. And we also were able to make some modifications to our home because as he's grown, obviously he's becomes more difficult to lift. And so now we have a lift or a tracking system in our house to be able to lift him safely and, you know, just provide care for him so that he can be at home with us.
Excellent. I love how the program has grown with William for your family. And last but certainly not least, Mr. Turner, can you tell us why you applied for an HVMP grant?
My independence. I got tired of asking people to help me, and they really did, you know, from the heart. But their eyes told me a different story. I have both a home and vehicle modification. I couldn't get a ramp for my vehicle, but I did get hand controls. So now I can get in and out of the house and out in the community. And aging, it's a little bit difficult. So now I don't have to depend on nobody. I can get in the vehicle and I can go. It was really helpful for me to get my own independence back and aging at the same time. Thanks.
Outstanding. I love that. I love hand controls. One day I want to try that and see how it works. No, I don't? Okay. So now that the modification is complete, can you tell us what the impact of it is on you and your family's lives? And I'll ask Jen to start.
I think if it wasn't for COVID, our van would have been even more helpful because we really don't go anywhere right now. But it just allows us to go out and do things with William. He loves to be out and about and, you know, visiting people. And we go to different community things and to go visit his grandparents. And as far as the home modifications, it has saved, well, not saved, but helped my back improve because years of lifting really has, you know, does a job on your back. Because at 18, I mean, imagine lifting any other 18-year-old boy and doing that day in and day out. It's exhausting, but it's what we had to do. So it's just made life easier and safer for everyone, where there's no worries about dropping him or, you know, or if we are injured, then who's looking after him? You know, we really appreciate knowing that we can look after him on our own with help sometimes, but yeah, that it's safe for whoever's here looking after him to be able to do anything he needs.
That's outstanding. I know that feeling very, very personally. So I appreciate you telling us about it. Michelle, how about you? So what's the impact on your life that you've had your vehicle modified?
I think to start with, there are the obvious impacts that have affected me in terms of being able to get to places that I need to get to, especially places that are of further distance in terms of walking. It has allowed me to preserve some energy. It has helped with reducing the pain. Being on my, you know, walking with a scooter is challenging at times and it will create pain. So those things have really helped. I think the area of my life that perhaps people don't always recognize that a scooter lifter, that kind of thing can help is in my life with my daughter. I'm a single mom and I have a 13-year-old, and there are so many different things that I have not been able to do with her in the community. Things like going to watch the fireworks at the Parliament. That's a big challenge if I can't use a scooter. I should say, yes, scooter. I apologize. If I can't use my scooter, I can only walk so far with my walker. So that ruins it. Canada's Wonderland or things like that. And this summer, I was able to bring my daughter and her friend to Calypso Water Park. And we went from one end of the park to the other, back and forth again as they decided what ride they wanted to go on. And then no, they changed their mind. And then they wanted to go to the other end of the park and go to that one. And then no, now they're hungry for a French fry. And that kind of stuff would have ruin the day for myself and for her, because really I would get very grumpy and sore in a very short period of time. But I was like, okay, let's do it. You want to go down there? We'll go down there. And back and forth. And being able to take my daughter to the mall just spontaneously. You want to go to the mall? Let's do it. Going to the mall is another challenge because it requires a lot of walking, of course. So that has really helped. And so basically, I appreciate all the obvious things that it has allowed me to do, like as pain reduction. And it's really in the area of motherhood that for me, I treasure, and that's just feeling like a normal mom.
I see MPP Harden nodding his head to Calypso Water Park and the fireworks on Parliament Hill, yeah, Ottawa area MPP. So, all of those things are so important. It's quality of life, right? And I certainly I hear you on the motherhood part for sure. Mr. Turner, again, can you tell us what's I've heard through my colleagues, but now I want to hear straight from you. What are the impacts to your life of the modifications, the home and vehicle modifications that you've had?
Well, for the start, I can now I can get in and out of the house by myself by using the ramp outdoors. I had a problem. I had friends, they rallied together when they saw the ramp, and they enclosed my back porch. So I can come into the house, I can sit on the porch if I want, and if I feel like going for a drive, I can get in. It really, the modification program for my vehicle helped me go to Ottawa, Toronto, Montreal, and advocate for other people who have disabilities because they need to see somebody who's resilient. And if they see that, because I'm a bilateral amputee, one above the knee, one below the knee, and they see me out there and they go like, one, how did he get here? Who drove him? And when I tell them I drove myself, they just get like really, wow, that's awesome. How did you do it? And I told them about the March of Dimes program, being an amputee since first one was at 2011, and my recent one was just a couple of years ago. But yet I have nothing but nice things to say about the process. Tickling, but the process was a little bit trying, but I did it, and I did it with my head up instead of being on the ground. That's what
Excellent.
it's did for me. And I volunteer for a men's group here.
Outstanding. You're busy. You got things to
should
do.
have got me the program, got me my wheelchair, and I wouldn't be, or the lift. So, well, I'm giving back to the community.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. I see a number of MPPs on our attendee list here, government and opposition parties and leaders. And so what I want, so first my dog is going to bark, but then secondly, what I'm going to do is ask each of you, what would you want MPPs in Ontario to know about the home and vehicle modification? So Dawn, you're on my screen. Why don't we start with you? What do you want MPPs to
I
know?
feel like I'm being cornered here. What I want them to know is that there's a lot of us out there that need the support and help in order to improve our quality of life, so we can feel like we're back into giving to the community. We're participating. We're mentoring. We're playing stewardship. We're here, and it's nice to know if there was more available to help supply people, because when the program first started, this is new times now, and things have changed. But I'd like them to know that get those people out there, get people talking again, start rallying, and get them out. Like, hey, the program's valuable, because you never know when you're going to need it. I didn't think I was going to need it.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And now we'll go backwards. Michelle, what would you like the MPPs on our event here to know?
Before I was ill, I I didn't have much experience with other people with disabilities, and to be quite honest, I had no clue how expensive medical equipment really is. And once I became ill, I was shocked. The expenses are enormous. Even really basic, simple things are extremely costly. And March of Dimes allowed me to do something that I really could not do as a single mom financially. And I think it validated me as a person and gave me value. And I tremendously appreciate that. And it's allowed me to be part of the community again.
Okay. It's like, this is very, this is emotional for me too. So thank you for that, Michelle. And Jen, finally, what would you like the MPPs on the line today to know about the HVMP and its impact?
It is absolutely overwhelming as a parent to know that there's something you need that you can't provide. And it's not like you can't just, everything takes time. Everything is such a process. There's so many things you need, but having the support is amazing. But I know other people who were not as lucky as us who, qualified, but the money just isn't there right now. There just isn't enough. And the price of everything has gone up. And to know that you need $80,000 to buy a vehicle that's modified is yeah, it's very difficult. And just the basic, for your house, the basic a lift is thousands of dollars. And people in the community just assume that things like that are covered. They're like, well, isn't that covered? I'm like, no, like we get some help, but 20 years later, the cost is much higher. And it would be great to be able to have more funding. And it would be great that for more people to be able to access the funding that they desperately need. Because it's really, really difficult when you're facing decisions and, do we keep our child at home and look after them and do what we want to do as a family? Or do we have to look at residential care because we can't physically look after them with what we have? And it's a horrible thing to have to think about. But we appreciate the help we've been able to get. And I just really hope that other people I know, well, everyone who requires the help, I really would love for them all to be able to get the help we've had.
I want to thank you, Jen, Michelle, and Dawn for being with us today. I know it can be hard to find the time, but I can't tell you how much we appreciate your presence with us today and your ongoing advocacy for this program. It's essential, and we'll just keep going. We will keep keeping on. So what I'd like to do now is ask MPP Joel Harden, he's the MPP for Ottawa Centre and the Ontario NDP critic for accessibility and persons with disabilities, to provide some remarks today. Joel.
What a wonderful event we've had so far. I really appreciate the work that's been done to put this together. Amazing to hear from Jen, Michelle, and Donald. Thank you. Those stirring testimonials are a great reminder about why we need to invest in these kinds of programs to make sure people can live in community, people with disabilities and their loved ones can live in community. Nice to see former Premier Wynne. Nice to see you, Mike. Minister Cho. I see a number of people from my own caucus: Teresa Armstrong, Catherine Fife, Mara Stiles, Jen French. If I've forgotten anybody, I'm sorry, but I'm glad to know that on a cold January afternoon, a lot of us have made this a priority to hear about this terrific program. Look, I don't want to belabor a comment. I just want to acknowledge something I think we all agree on. We have a lot to work to do to remove barriers and disabilities for people living with disabilities in Ontario. That's 2.6 million people. And this is a great way to do it. If our goal is to make sure that people can live in community, I'm thinking about what Jen just said, the notion that a family would have to choose between enrolling their young adult who has a disability in residential 24/7 care rather than having that choice to live in community with their family, that is just a powerful, powerful option that Jen's been given. I hear what Donald's saying with respect to not having to ask and having the independence to do what he wants, and the fact that you devoted advocacy, Donald, with that freedom that this program has given you tells us a lot about you. And Michelle, your story about being a single mom and what you've been able to do with your daughter moved me deeply, moved all of us deeply. Thank you for being here today. And maybe sometime when my son drags me to Calypso Water Park, I'll see you there again. But look, I do want to end with some words from an incredible person on the other side of the planet. You may have heard about this address. Dylan Alcott was just given the award of Australian of the Year for 2021, or was it 2022? One of those years. And he's a person who's lived with a disability, who's competed for Australia at a high level in Paralympic tennis. And one of the things Dylan just said is that he wants programs like this to give us an idea that a disability is actually not an awful thing, that he regards his disability as a developmentally challenged man who, from the moment a cancer was removed from his spinal cord when he was born, he was told and often led to believe when he was a young child that his disability was some kind of an impediment for the rest of his life. And instead, he told a roaring crowd that he regarded his disability as a gift, as an opportunity to have empathy, to understand what he could do for his community, for his country. And I want to just read you one aspect of what he said. He said he urged non-disabled people to, quote, challenge your unconscious biases, your negative perceptions, and lift your expectation of what you think people with disabilities can do. Amen to that. And thank you so much to the March of Dimes for this program, because you were part of that. You were part of helping people like Donald, like Michelle, and like Jen make that happen for themselves and their families. Thanks for your work.
Thank you, MPP Harden. It's so nice to see you again virtually. And when you attend March of Dimes events, you always come with very thoughtful insights and a real passion for assisting the needs of people with disabilities in our province. So grateful to have you with us here today. Those words that Dylan spoke are really echoed in March of Dimes Canada's new strategic plan, where we want to champion equity and empower ability, and certainly lift the abilities for people with disabilities in Ontario and right across Canada. So thank you so much for being with us today. Next, I'd like to invite to our virtual stage Mr. Mike Schreiner, the leader of the Green Party of Ontario and MPP for Guelph. Mike?
Thank you to March of Dimes for organizing this advocacy day, and just thank you for your support for the home and vehicle modification program. And I just want to say to Michelle and Dawn and Jen how much I deeply appreciate you having the courage to share your stories, because I think when we have these advocacy days, it's stories like yours that make the difference. I mean, the numbers, the fact that the program hasn't seen a funding increase in 20 years tells you that we need a funding increase. The fact that only 1/3 of the people who apply for grants actually receive one, given what a profound difference it makes in people's lives, tells you that we need to expand and increase funding for the program. But what really touches and tells the story is what you shared today. And I want to thank March of Dimes for organizing a meeting with one of my constituents here in Guelph, who, like you, Jen, told me what a huge difference this program made in her son's life. And in terms of having him to be inclusive in community, to be empowered, to feel that he was a part of a community. And much like Dawn, this constituent said to me, I'm not here to ask for any more money for us. I'm here because I want to ask for money to support others so they can be supported in the way that I have been. And much like Michelle said, it was because she wanted her son and all people with disabilities to be part of the community. And so if we're going to truly build caring and inclusive communities and empower people of all abilities, we need to make sure that we fund the programs that enable people to be full participants in their communities. And that's exactly what this program does. And I want to thank March of Dimes for organizing today's event. And I'll tell you that, like, right after the meeting you organized with my constituent, I wrote Minister Fullerton a letter and I said, hey, let's all get together across party lines and support this program. So thank you so much.
Thank you, MPP Schreiner, for your remarks, and thank you for sharing our passion for creating a more equitable Ontario and for making that effort to reach out to Minister Fullerton and lending your voice to what we know is a program that can really change lives and enhance inclusion and opportunities for people in our province. You being with us here today is very important to us, and we appreciate you taking the time to join us. Thank you so much. At this point, I would now like to invite Ms. Kathleen Wynne, the MPP for Don Valley West, the community which we call home at March of Dimes Canada, to bring some remarks. Kathleen?
Yeah. Can you hear me, Len?
I can, but
Okay.
I can't see you. There you are.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Len and Amanda, for organizing this event. And let me just acknowledge my colleagues and reiterate what they have said about the appreciation for Jen and Michelle and Donald and the stories that they told. And I also just want to acknowledge that there are people who are working with March of Dimes. Amanda, you were saying that you know, you were emotional, and you and I have a long history working with your family, and you have been such an advocate for so long. So I just want to acknowledge that, and I want to thank the March of Dimes. You know, I've been in office now for many years, and I know what government's capable of, and I know what government's not capable of, and I know how important it is that there be organizations like the March of Dimes to work with government in connecting with community. And you do that in an exemplary way, and I've enjoyed our partnership over the years. I had the opportunity to speak to Mansoura in my own community. March of Dimes connected us, and she told a story about her mom and the support that she got from March of Dimes through the program to provide a lift for her mom, and the description of her mom being able to sit on the front porch and basically feel the sun on her face and be outside, which had not been able to happen for months, was very, very touching. And so there are really big changes in people's lives that can happen because of the HVMP program, and there are ostensibly small changes that have a huge impact and allow people to live with dignity. So I don't think there's going to be any partisan wrangling about the need to support this program and to acknowledge the value of it. And so I want to thank you, and I want to thank all of the advocates who are taking it upon themselves to tell their stories and make sure that all of us in elected office understand how important it is that this program not just continue, but that it thrive. You know, I know that when families are looking for support, sometimes there's a piecemeal kind of aspect to finding those supports. And March of Dimes is one organization that tries to pull the supports together and help people to navigate the system. So thank you, and I look forward to continuing to work with you.
Thank you so much, Kathleen. Always a pleasure to spend time with you. And again, thank you for your ongoing support of March of Dimes Canada, your passion for our mission, and for your friendship as the MPP for us in the community that you represent. This really brings to end the formal part of our first virtual Queen's Park Day for March of Dimes Canada. At this time, I'd like to welcome members of the audience to submit questions for any of today's speakers using the chat function. I remind people that if you want to learn more about March of Dimes Canada, please visit our website. Perhaps in the chat, we could include a link to where you can see our new strategic plan, Champion Equity, Empower Ability, where you'll learn more about the breadth and scope of the aspirations of our organization, from helping children get the best start in life to helping enhance the financial security for a population of individuals in our country, far too many of whom are living at or close to the poverty line, to our important work in supporting people to live independently at home, and to our important work of being able to connect people with their communities. There's a lot to learn about March of Dimes Canada. Our name is well known, but what we do is not known well. And every time we have an opportunity to gather people together to talk with you about our mission and our vision for a more equitable Canada, we are educating more people about the important work we do. So on that note, Amanda, I'll turn it back to you, and we'll see if we have any questions or comments.
Comment from Minister Michael Thibodeau, who is the minister responsible for mental health and addictions. And he says that inclusiveness and accessibility are critical to dealing with depression, anxiety, and of course, isolation, and that HVMP is truly an amazing program, offering supports that are important for increasing the quality of life and ensuring equity for all. So delighted to receive that comment from you, Minister. Thank you very much for being here today. Otherwise, we don't seem to have any questions in our chat, but we have put up a link to our strategic plan. If anybody would like to go and take a look at that, it's an easy read. Let me tell you, I wouldn't lie about that. It's pretty great. I'm a big fan. Anyway, we don't have any questions or comments other than that. So perhaps I'll go back to you.
Okay, well, thank you. And again, please, if you have any questions for any of us, please reach out. Happy, after the presentation today, if anybody would like more information, we encourage you, if you're interested in supporting this, to write your MPP and let them know that this is an important program, and that you support our efforts in increasing access to this program. As one of our panelists mentioned, we're only able to serve 36% of the people who apply for this program every year. So our panelists are really among the fortunate ones who are able to benefit. And as heartwarming as their stories are, there's also heartbreaking stories about those people that we have not been able to help. And their voices are really important. So there's a lot that we can do together to enhance access to this program. I would also like to acknowledge that there's many members of my team who are joining us online today. So thank you to everybody from March of Dimes Canada who's here with us and who has helped put today's event together. Thank you so much for your work on that. So to everyone here today, please keep up the momentum on this. We have really positive meetings with Ministers Fullerton, Cho, and Elliott this morning. For all of the elected officials and party leaders who are here with us, it means a lot to us. It bolsters our confidence that this program is important, that it is making an impact across our province, and your support is so important to us and our abilities to continue to increase the spread and impact of this program. So thank you, everybody. Stay safe. Stay warm, and hopefully this time next year or in the not too far distant future, we're actually a little closer together and able to participate in a real old-fashioned Queen's Park event where I'd be saying now, help yourself to the muffins and coffee. So if you're at home, help yourself to a muffin and coffee. Thank you, everybody.